What's up, everyone? My name's Dan. I'm from Random Media Guys, and today we are doing a new segment called the Book Report. Now, what is the Book Report? Book Report is a segment where we talk about books that come out or I've read that are either getting an adaptation, have some relevance to a subject in general, or maybe are an extension of maybe a current work out there. So the first book I'm going to talk about is I Shall Fear No Evil. Now, I Shall Fear No Evil, what does it have to do? Well, it's LGBT month. I figured we'd do this book. It's by Robert A. Heinlein, the guy who brought us this book. Says The Moon is a Heart's Mistress, Stranger in a Strange Land, and Starship Troopers. Now, the book is an interesting thing, and I'll give you a quick review of it. So the book starts out, it's set in the 2010s, so somewhere in our decade. And the main character, his name is Johann Smith. He's got a really long name. He's Johann Sebastian Bach Smith, named after the composer. Anyway, he's best way to describe it, he's a 1%er, or a 0.1%er. He's a self-made man who basically is now in charge of a large company, and he's in his 90s. And at the beginning of the book, he after boarding, he talks to his lawyer and secretary about possibly getting a body donor to transplant his brain and put into a younger, healthy body. And trying to work out what to do and all this stuff. So, this guy's basically trying to cheat death. He's found the surgeon who's done it with chimps, and he does it. So he talks to his lawyer Jake, who's the main character, and his secretary Eunice, and has her put down the stuff, music. Keep a record. So in the book, it skips ahead after Jake takes Eunice to her home, and it skips ahead about a few months with the doctor coming out of surgery, and Jake asking how it went, the usual stuff, and Johann comes out of surgery. He begins becoming aware, but things aren't exactly going as he thought it would go. See, they still have him strapped down. Doctor is saying, well, you're in a new body. Clearly, you're going to be, your body might not, work properly, or you might just lose muscle control of that. So, eventually, Johann realizes that he's not in a normal body. He's not in a male body. He's in a female body, mainly because the way he's been feeling things. And he thinks his theory was because if this was a male body, they wouldn't have trapped him down because it would have been a big psychological shock, and they risk, the mind creating a split personality. Now, as this is going, Johann, while he's asleep, he keeps hearing Eunice's voice saying, "Boss, how are you?" So eventually, when he confides in Jake, says, "Hey, I think I'm in a female body." And so Jake's like, "Johann, you are in a female body." He's like, "Well, fine. Let me see the mirror. Let me get a mirror so I can see myself." And he gets a mirror, and the twist, here's the big twist. So spoilers, that he's in Eunice's body, and what happened is Eunice was the same blood type as him, and she had put her body up. She was on the donors list, along with her husband and a bunch of other people. And she was the first person to die with the blood type. So as soon as she died, and they could get her husband to sign the death certificate and all that stuff. They went into surgery, keeping her body alive while they transferred Johann's brain over. So the next big. So the story mainly follows Johann. It's a mixture of identity, basically trying to prove that Johann, who changes his name to Joanne, Eunice obviously, and it's also a bit of this, like, is Eunice really there? Because Johann hears her, or Joanne hears her, and basically almost consults her on how to act more feminine, and what would you do in this situation? You find out things about people beforehand. Like, you find out that Eunice had a relationship with Jake and his drivers, and so it's kind of going from someone. It's both a story of trans and kind of like the age gap stuff, the generational gap. This book I actually really liked because it did even though it was written in 1970, it did a really good job with portraying LGBT characters. You had one of her though Jake is her lawyer, he later passed away, and one of the lawyers who she was in fraternity with, he's a bisexual. You find this out in conversation that the judge who's helping her with her her establishing that this is the brain of Johann Sebastian Bach Smith, and the lawyer are actually bisexual lovers, and that they have wives, but they'd go off on weekends, and they don't treat them as stereotypes. They're like, hey, these are just two men who happen to be into men and women, but it's treated really well. They talk about when she goes shopping for clothes, she has, the very effeminate guy, which, if you're working in fashion, I'm pretty sure that most people, I mean, it's though it's a stereotype, a lot of fashionistas tend to be prudes and all that stuff, so I can see that. They deal with, the big thing they deal with is bisexuality, because they talk about her at one point, Eunice teasing her about wanting to bed her nurse. Now, when it comes to in terms of sci-fi, I thought it actually, they got a lot of technology right. Some stuff, for instance, this thing called Stenodesk, which basically sounds like a tablet. It can record, it can go access databases, all that fun stuff. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a tablet. That sounds like actually something that a personal assistant would be using. They some of the science fell off. They talked about the body remembering versus the brain, where they've actually proven that like procedural memory, so doing stuff like piano, is, though part of it is in the body, most of it is stored in the brain into a separate area from declarative memory. So there was the thing where a guy got a surgery to stop him from having epilepsy, but it gave him interrograde amnesia. Basically, he couldn't form new memories. And but they could teach him stuff, and he could he learned to play piano or do a drawing or navigate a maze. So some science is off, but it actually, for what it was really spot on for the tech of the time. The ubiquity of use of plastic versus cash. The fact that homosexual and bisexual relationships are just considered, for the most part, the norm. I mean, they even point out that, hey, this is just the way things are, and anybody who reads in time, for most part, go, oh, there's two men holding hands. Okay, whatever. So I'm subscribed to like Dave Rubin. He's a gay guy. I happen to think and that's not the reason why I'm straight. I'm straight because he's a great, interviewer. So basically, it's kind of showing that people are not focusing on sexuality as much, and just being sexual. People are not being bound by older things. Even a kind of a sense that a much more secularization of society, which I thought was really kind of a cool concept in the book. Anyway, I reckon it's not Heinlein's best work, because as you read, you realize that there's sometimes that there's skips that shouldn't be there. But I read actually that when he wrote the book, he had about a year. He was sick for about a year and a half, so the book didn't get perfectly polished. Although it does, it. I mean, some of the stuff again. Although anything written before 1980, there's a lot of stuff like there's not a lot of use of computers. There's a lot of use of scientific. So the inaccuracies in the book when it comes to predictions is, of course, there's hardly any mention of use of computers, tape reels, the fact that in the 2015s we'd have a decent sized population living on the moon for colonization. I mean, in the book there's at least 1,000 people or 1,000 plus people. So, I mean, at least we're close to that. I mean, we might soon actually have that. But no, and of course they're in the book. They seem to be hinting that of kind of a slightly dystopian future where there are certain areas and cities that are abandoned from police use. So it's basically or police patrol. Basically, it's the police left it, which is kind of ironic because in many ways the police have doubled down recently, and that's actually been a big, you've seen that problem with overzealous cops. But I thought it was a great book. I'd give it a 4 out of 5, mainly because the time tips kind of mess up. The kind of gaps hurt it, but altogether is a pretty good book. I'd recommend. I read this through Audibles. Check it out. Audible's not a sponsor, but if there are more people, we can get them as a sponsor. And then, hey, you could probably get a free book if we had Audibles, please. We would really like it. I mean, I'm reviewing books. This would be great. I'm Dan, and this has been the Book Report, and I'll see you later. Hey everyone, thanks for watching.
I don't thank you anymore.
Remember to leave a comment below and hit the like button. I'm Dan.
I'm Chris.
And we will see you later.